Hello and welcome to the TTI Distribution Download, the podcast where we talk about all things happening in the world of electronic components with the specialists of TTI.
Thanks, Jim, and welcome everybody to TTI's Distribution Download. My name is John Sandy, and joining me here today is Dave Nyberg, 3M's Global Product Marketing Manager. Welcome, Dave, and here we're about to kick off our second episode.
Thanks, John. Really glad to be here.
For those who didn't listen to episode 1, please go back and have a listen to it. But we talked a lot about 3M and the technologies and what the TTI and 3M partnership looks like. Today, we're really going to dig into, on this episode, a specific application or series of applications really centered around robotics. Why don't you start, Dave, by just giving us a feeling for robotics as 3M sees it and kind of the direction you guys are going in?
Sure, that'd be a great place to start, John. So robotics is just a real exciting time right now because the explosion of activity happening with the move towards autonomy and it's not necessarily factories. We tend to think of robotics like in a factory type environment or industrial type environment, but now there's all this activity that's outside of that, whether it's the humanoid type, that we've all seen headlines on, humanoid type robots or whatever it might be. But we really divide everything into 3 categories. There's kind of the traditional general robotics. There's the cobots, or the robots that are collaborative with humans in working in the same space with humans. And then there's the AMRs, or the autonomous mobile robots, where you have they really move around on their own. They're not like a humanoid where they have arms and legs, but they're mobile, hence the name AMRs. So we really divide everything into those categories. Each one's very unique. Each one serves a different industry and different functions, and they all have different requirements for products that we sell into that line up with our portfolio. But again, very exciting time. All of them are showing tremendous growth, and I'm sure TTI sees the same thing on your side.
No, absolutely. Certainly, this is a very exciting area. I think everybody's probably had some experience with this, and most industries are moving this way for sure. As you've segmented that so nicely, Dave, into those 3 different categories, why don't we start with robotics as we all knew it, and really look at maybe some of the products that 3M are bringing to that market?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. So robotics, most people will think of robotics like an automotive manufacturing assembly line where you have all these arms moving back and forth and doing welding or painting or whatever it might be, finishing, sanding. And that is a really good example of traditional robotics. But it could be a lot of activity around, again, like warehouse activity, pick and place type applications. There's millions of those applications out there where it's an arm moving to pick something up and move it over to another location. Just any kind of movement. What robotics at a ground level basic sense, robotics is really trying to mimic or duplicate human activity. So this is usually arm type movement, and there's servo motors in those joint type movement apparatus of the robotic arm, and all of those have to be controlled with power and some kind of programming to know where to move to. And that's where the electronic parts and cables come into play that 3M sells and the TTI supports. And when you think of those environments, think of all that movement, all those moving arms. It's a very, very rugged, durable, or very, very rugged, difficult, harsh environment. You have a lot of flex, a lot of vibration. The environments tend to be dusty. You could have temperature challenges with high temp, depending on the application and what's happening, what you're building. And really challenges the limits of connectors and cable assemblies. And that's where 3M comes into play with some of our technology.
If we were going to dig a little bit into some of that technology, just to give a few people some views of some of the key products, what would you specifically focus on for this type of application?
I think the cables, I mentioned the flex. So a lot of 3M cables are tested for over 100 million flex cycles. And when you think about that, that's there's certain specifications around how those flex cycles are tested. But we have a cable and we put it on a test machine, and that test machine is running 24/7 for several years to get that many flex cycles. That cable is actually going through a repeated bending to a certain bending radius or whatever the spec might be for a very, very long time. You really can't do accelerated weathering or any kind of, that kind of concept where you try and do it in a shorter time frame. You just have to get the product on the testing apparatus and bend it forever. And that's really what we do and why we've been doing it for a long time. And some of these cables, we're confident that there's no signal loss, no signal integrity issues, even over 100 million cycles. On the ruggedness type application or the ruggedness type requirement, you have to have connectors that latch well, that connect well, that are secure, and can withstand all the vibration occurring in this equipment. And again, I think that's where we've tested our connectors, and they do very well. And that's what customers are looking for: ruggedness, tough solutions that can meet the requirements of these harsh environments.
Yeah, that's a great point there, Dave, especially about the high flex and the ruggedness. I think people look at that application and think that's pretty easy, but actually there's a lot of complex needs behind that, and the last thing you want to do is have a robot go down for a broken cable or an unlatched connector. So I think it's a great point. As we move from, say, robotics as we all knew it, and then start maybe looking at cobots, what sort of different challenges and opportunities does that bring when it comes to 3M and the technologies you guys have?
Yeah, so the cobots, a little different application. They may not be in quite as rugged of an environment, or maybe not quite as harsh, because again, they're collaborating with humans. There's human interaction there. They're probably in a workspace with humans, but it's all about safety, because just like we're talking about, since they are in a collaborative space, a collaborative use, safety is paramount. So you have, dependability, reliability, connectivity. Again, you want connections that are very secure, because you don't want something going wrong. You don't have a lot of margin for error there, where you have humans in the same space as some of those machines and equipment. So you definitely have to have some robust and reliable type connectivity. And that's where, again, 3M's products line up very well. Very trusted brand, very dependable connectors. We've been in the business for decades, and people count on us for high quality, durable, reliable connections.
Is there a standout product or a standout technology in that world of cobots that 3M really sort of builds upon?
Probably our cables. I think our cables are, really known as industry-leading cables. And again, that if there's a flex requirement, we can meet that with over 100 million cycles. And again, I think it's worth mentioning with our cables, we do manufacture those cables here in the USA. And with some of the tariff concerns, we've seen a lot of activity with our cables this year. So I think that's a further benefit there. But I think that's we have a lot of benefit there with our cables, and we're known in the industry as providing some of the highest quality cables around.
That's a great point, by the way, that often gets overlooked when it comes to 3M cables, made in the USA. Everybody, as Dave just said, tariff-free and stocked at TTI and available for you whenever you need them. So thanks for that, Dave. That's a point that most of our listeners have probably overlooked or maybe were not aware of. So that's great information. So going from cobots and then moving into, I guess, the third area that you outlined earlier, AMRs. Why don't you just talk us through that a little bit as well? Sure.
And the key difference with AMRs is they usually or often have a visual component. So you think about AMRs, autonomous mobile robots. To be autonomous, often those machines or robots, they have to have eyes to spatially know where they are, or where to go, or what to see, or what to look for. And then you have this whole machine vision component that fits very well with 3M products because we have a full lineup of machine vision cable assemblies, Co-Express, Camera Link, USB 3 Vision, and that whole component of the visual aspect is a complexity that really can't be overlooked. And like you said earlier, John, you have all of these factories, all of these industries that are using these type of robotic mechanisms. Time is money, and time is of the essence. And there's no time for downtime. You know, these products, these robotics, they have to be highly dependable. Nobody wants to have a system or a product manufacturing system go offline because of a minor connectivity issue, a cable assembly going out, a connector going out. That's where durability is really key. You just can't take the risk of something not working, and whether it's the machine vision system in these AMRs or whatever it might be. So we have a full line of machine vision cable assemblies that have very tight connections, screw locks, right angle, left angle connectors, just a lot of good features that line up well with the requirements of these mobile robots. A lot of them are very compact, very tight space. You need small connectors. There's, again, another benefit of 3M connectors. We have some of the smallest form factors and smallest or narrowest pitches of any connectors in the industry, so you can get a lot of value on your board space, a lot of small connectors fitting on your board space to maximize your board space and therefore miniaturize your equipment.
It's kind of interesting to think about the visual component and the fact that there's a real time involvement now and really understanding where they're at and getting that data moved around. And I got to be honest, obviously we've been together with 3M now for a long time. I've seen a big development in that machine vision product range, constant developments. Is there anything that's like the latest and greatest version, or maybe is there any technology that's coming soon that we should be aware of?
We just released our new USB 3 Vision cable with standard A to Type C connectivity. And I know that's available now on your TTI website. You've ordered some products, so that's moving your way. We've got some other Co-Express products that are recently released that TTI is, I think you have that on your website as well. And we're excited about that because it'll provide up to 50 gig speed. And that's some of the fastest speeds of machine vision requirements in the industry. And you'll see, back on the cameras, I mean, the cameras, I talked about miniaturization earlier. Cameras and the whole miniaturization of the optics are really pushing the limits of the interface standards and what you can physically fit for a form factor on the backside of the camera. It's almost to the point where the limitation of the camera size is the connector to connect the cable assembly into the camera on the back of the camera. And so we're constantly being pushed for smaller form factors, miniaturization, and I think that's going to continue in the future here for the overall industry trend of everything moving to be smaller.
Yep, smaller, faster, lighter seems to be the drive pretty much across most technologies, but certainly in this space, and I can understand why, and I've certainly seen that development. As you said, USB 3 recently launched in stock at TTI. Coax Express the same in stock at TTI, and keep an eye on the 3M TTI web pages for any new technologies that are coming out. We'll obviously keep everybody informed. I guess, Dave, just quickly thinking about some of these products, and obviously we're talking about the new technologies and the leading edge technologies that 3M's bringing to market, but obviously there's a lot of legacy product out there, product that 3M's been involved with for years and years that still is very active in this space. Maybe you could just give us a quick overview of some of those.
Yeah, that's a great topic. In the area of robotics, I'm no robotics expert, but from the customers we talked to, one of the major complexities of these designs is they're continually trying to innovate and add more. The customers of the robotics companies are always asking for more and more features, more capability. And we talked about needing to be lightweight, smaller, more compact. So they're trying to fit more into the housing or the size of the current robotic mechanism, or even make it smaller. And the wiring, the space that the wiring is taking is a real challenge. And so we're seeing a lot of activity. Our link connectors, for example, we've been selling those link connectors for many years. They're not a new connector, but every time we go see a robotic customer, there's interest in those link connectors because they're ideal for multiplexing and splicing off trunk lines and reducing wiring. You don't have to, traditional applications tend to wire things all the way back to a power source or a signal source. But now with link connectors, you can splice in off of other trunk lines. You can have multiplexing signals across the same line. And it allows for a significant reduction in wire. And the benefits of that aren't just the savings in the wire, but they tend to run more efficiently. There tends to be less heat buildup. There tends to be, certainly less copper, less weight, just all kinds of benefits there that, a connector that was developed long before this robotics boom, a legacy connectors of ours, is now front and center on a lot of these discussions with robotics manufacturers, and we're excited to see that.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think Link's been a great product for years and years now. We've seen lots and lots of applications, and it continues to amaze me how we continue to find new applications. And I think the flexibility you talked about there, and the fact that you can basically come in and splice off wherever you need to, as the application suits, is a real key one there. I think it's one of the reasons we keep pushing some of the legacy products, and I know we work closely together with the marketing team to keep that in front and center in people's minds, and obviously continue to stock it. So it's always good to remember that the latest technology may not necessarily be the absolute best solution. There's a lot of legacy products out there.
Yeah, agree. Very true.
So Dave, that's great. We've talked a lot about the robotics, the cobots, and the AMRs. Obviously, hot right now is AI and machine learning. So why don't you give us a view for how 3M's involved there and how that links into this technology space?
Yeah, that's a great topic. And when you think of robotics, and especially the autonomous robotics, autonomous technology, it's only as smart as what it can learn or what we can teach it. And it only gets smart based on how fast we can teach it and get it the information and processing it to learn. And so the way to do that, it's all about speed. It's all about connectivity. And there again, with high-speed cable assemblies from 3M, it's really essential that you have that connectivity and capability. The iterative process and continually doing that is the way these machines learn, and that's the only way it'll happen. And so when you think about cameras and the images, we're seeing cameras and the requirements for 50 gig for co-express, for example. You can process a lot of photos rapidly, and you're talking about millions of photos in a week that need to be processed. And from that, the machine continues to get smarter and smarter. And everything happens faster today than it did 10 years ago. That's not even close. And that's how it happens. It's with the camera interfaces, the cable assemblies that are able to transmit those images and stay connected and no downtime, and keep these machines learning over and over again. I mean, the robotics, if you think about a robotic type mechanism, the humanoids, in fact, they're only as good as how quickly they can learn and decipher all that information. And that's where the cable assemblies and the high-speed cable assemblies come into play. If you had cable assemblies at speeds of 10 or 15 years ago, the systems really wouldn't work. They couldn't learn fast enough to be practical. That's where the high-speed cable assemblies are essential.
And Dave, how do you see maybe this market, in fact, this kind of technology, how do you see that developing as we move forward? Obviously, we've seen a lot of development in Vision Express, and then the just recently bringing out Coax Express. Does 3M have a view of where this technology may be sort of 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line? Is that something you're able to talk about?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the A3 Vision Standard Committee is actively working on a small optical interface type project. And they've asked a lot of the manufacturers to come forward and talk about, how would this work? Because I do think at some point in the future, just like we were talking about with machine learning and AI requirements, that capability of fiber optic is going to be not just something that's possible, but even required for a lot of applications. Almost like a real-time and super fast connectivity and image processing and resolutions. And the only way to really do that is with fiber optics. So 3M is front and center on that. We already have our expanded beam optic business in fiber optics, but we haven't applied that to machine vision and cable assemblies for cameras yet. And I think that's coming. I think it's just a matter of time before the industry moves in that direction. And we'll see speeds get even faster. And that'll just launch a whole nother round of technology advancements that there'll be a breakthrough. And it'll all be because of fiber optics on the back of machine vision cameras.
Yeah, exciting things to come, Dave, and probably something we'll talk a little bit about on episode 3 as we dig deeper into machine vision. So, Dave Nyberg from 3M, thank you very much for today. Great having you on again. And for our listeners, join us again for episode 3 of the Distribution Download with 3M coming soon.
That's it for this episode of the TTI Distribution Download. For more information on any of the topics you heard about today, reach out to your nearby TTI branch at 1-800-CALL-TTI or visit us online at tti.com.